Hi everyone. Hope you're having a good weekend. Happy Easter, everyone. Um, this is the review video that I had said that I would make, since we usually do review the class period before an exam. Obviously, I won't be seeing you all Tuesday. I hope you all enjoy your break. Thursday, of course, we have the exam. Those of you who usually have accommodations to take that elsewhere, of course, I won't see you, but I'll make sure that your exam is there. I'll make a posting about that. I'm going to briefly just run through the things that you should know, apart from the questions from your weekly quizzes, which of course will be on there. That's quizzes 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those will be on the discussion board. So I'll put an announcement on there with all. I'll put an announcement up here that the video for the review video is up, and then that the discussion board is up as well, and that is where I'll put the quizzes there, so that you can take another look at those. Apart from the things that you've seen on your quizzes, sorry, just real quick here. There are going to be 2 questions about British rule in India. The answers to both of these questions can be found in lecture 10, which of course is also up on Blackboard, and that was the lecture entitled Imperialism. Fairly obvious why it's there. Two questions on 1848, the year 1848. You should just remember that year. That's one of the most important mid-century or 19th century years that you can remember. There are 2 questions on that, neither of which were on your quiz for that week. If you remember, the quiz that week was largely about the French Revolution, the aftermath, the Congress of Vienna. You can find the answers to these, though, in that lecture. Actually, it's the same lecture, because it happens in the context there of the Independence and Unification lecture. So that's the same lecture, lecture 10. Let's see. I drew several of the questions because, of course, 3/4 of the questions are your questions from the quizzes. The other quarter for this one, several of them come from the World War I lectures. So that was the last 2 lectures that are up there on Blackboard. That was the First World War, Part 1, Part 2. Or Part 1 was largely the outbreak of the war. It was a review of the run up to the war, just a very quick Cliff Notes version of that, because we had spent the lecture prior to that, the Towards War lecture, going over that. The first of the 2 World War lectures then is largely battlefield stuff, European context, events. And then it's the second lecture, Part 2, where I bring in the Americans. I basically started in the first months of 1917, those critical months that we talked about. What was the name of the German General Staff's plan to quickly win the war? That's one of them, just to give you an example. Know who was on which sides of the conflict, like who are the Entente powers, who are the Central powers. I believe that was one of your quiz questions at one point. Be able to say a little something about the successor states to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Of course, that's broken up, and that's where our state system of Central and Eastern Europe comes from, is the Austro-Hungarian domains being broken up. We talked a significant deal about that in the lectures on World War I, specifically the first one. And then again, the second one, when we talked about Versailles and the territorial adjustments and the principle of nationalities and national self-determination in Europe. know a little bit about, and this will come from the final lecture, lecture 2 on World War One, how the United States was able to interact or not interact with the belligerent powers as a quote-unquote neutral. We spent a good deal of time talking about that. For example, who they were able to trade with, to what extent, why, be able to talk about why they came into the war, what was working to shape public opinion. There's a question on here about why the British specifically entered the war. What were they concerned about? Why did they enter the war? That comes from the Towards War lecture. There are a couple of questions on here about particular battles. I don't usually. I think I asked you about 1 or 2 of them on the first exam. These were major battles on the Western Front. Involving the French and the British respectively. I mentioned both of them during the year 1916, so major hint there. One was with the French, the other was with the British. What year the United States entered the war. Be able to talk about the treaties that ended the war, specifically the treaty and it's what it meant for Germany specifically, because obviously there were multiple treaties and they impacted different powers in various ways, but Germany specifically, because this is a survey level course. We're kind of trying to lay the groundwork for the interwar period, which quickly turns into the run-up for World War II. So, and of course Germany will be the central actor in Europe with regards to that. So the short answer, you're going to choose, this is our short answer essay question, option 1. You're going to choose one of these following. These are going to be your 3 options here. Sorry, it's late. My apologies. Number 1. Explain the reasons Imperial Germany sought to maintain Austria-Hungary in being. We talked extensively about this in our lecture Towards War. Why did Germany ultimately have to abandon the Russian option? They were trying to keep the Russians on side because they knew that the French, after the Franco-Prussian War, were going to want to get Alsace and Lorraine back. That would require another power to attack Germany alongside France with them, and Russia was the most likely candidate. Why was it that when push came to shove, the German imperial government had to choose Vienna? So, 2, explain the British rationale for entering the First World War on the Entente side. If you choose this option, which my hope is that you prepare ahead of time for these, but in case you forget, if you get one of these preceding questions right, you'll have some idea of where to go with this one. You need to be thinking really much more geopolitically. Again, this is from our Towards War lecture. I told you at the start of this that I thought World War I was the most important event. It's really when we spent 2 weeks working our way from the French Revolution all the way up to World War I, and everything is going to be different after that. It's the world that 1789 made dies in 1914. Why does this happen? Why do these highly interconnected royal families lead their respective states into a horrifying war that destroys the world that they loved? And this really, without the British entering the war, it would have been over relatively quickly. Not terribly quickly, but it would have been over. The Germans would have won. Why did this war drag on the way that it did? Why did it wind up being a fight to unconditional surrender, total defeat? Very unusual, thereby setting the stage for World War II and everything that happened after. And this relates to number 3. This would be the one that I would choose, of course, which is explain the general causes of the First World War. Don't say the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. That is our proximate cause. We talked about that being the proximate cause. That's the match that someone accidentally dropped. But they dropped it in the room. It was full of barrels of gunpowder soaked in kerosene, right? What was the general milieu into which this metaphorical match was dropped? So, again, that's the lecture Towards War. Really, all those questions if you listen to that lecture again, Towards War, right there. Extra credit questions. You know I always give you some of these. I'll give you a little hints. The year 1848. Know which state was the first one to experience an actual revolution. For anyone out there who's trying to be super smart, I'm not looking for the answer Switzerland. That was happening in 1847, and that was also part of a kind of a civil war that was going on. So don't say that one. Which states, which kingdoms unified Italy and Germany respectively? And then what was the long-term Russian strategic interest in the Balkans area? What were they looking to secure for themselves? We talked about this many times, going back to the Crimean War, and again in the run-up to World War I. We talked about this in the context of why a revolutionary Ottoman government, soon to be called Turkey, enters the war on the Central Powers side. I just want to go back through here real quick and make sure that I got everything here from the lectures. I tried to avoid drawing anything specifically out of the book that I did not mention. Of course, if you read the book, you will be in great shape here. Remember that Japan was on the Entente side. Know which year World War I broke out. That really shouldn't be a problem, I hope. The factors that led to the outbreak of World War I, that was a quiz question. I think that's it. I think you are ready. If you have any questions, this video, I will put it up tonight. I will put the announcement up there as well. If you watch this video and you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing those of you take the test in class there on Thursday. Otherwise, happy Easter and best of luck.